Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, you're welcome, and all our subscribers are welcome. So we'll proceed by cutting the blouse first. So this fabric is already folded in 4. The original length of this dress is 18, so I made it 22. I added 5 inches. Remember, it has rope down, and when you put the rope and shift the cloth up, it's going to fall up. So with that 5 inches, I'm okay. I'll use 2 inches to put the rope to fold the allowance for the rope. Then for the falling, 3 inches is enough for me. Then I'll proceed by marking out the neck measure, the shoulder measurement. Remember, the shoulder is divided in 2. So since we are cutting the sleeve together, is a dormer dress, and the length of my sleeve, I'm going to be adding it to the half of my shoulder measurement. Remember, my shoulder is 15. When I divided by 2, I got 7.5. So that 7.5, I'm going to be adding it with the length of my sleeve. And remember, this sleeve too, it has rubber, elastic rubber, so you add everything together. 2 inches for elastic rubber, and you know it's going to fall. So after I added everything, and I just marked it down there. So this is based on preference. Just measure out the right thing where you want your sleeve to be and add it to the half measurement of your shoulder. Then you can see I marked another one where I added 2 inches for folding for that elastic rubber. Then I came down about 9 inches for my sleeve. That is for the round sleeve. Remember, the round sleeve, if you look through very well, is a bit puff. So that's why I came down with that about 9 inches. And remember, my fabric is unfolded, so by the time I'll be opening it, 9 times 2 be having 18. So I'll proceed now by marking out my half length, and this is what I'm marking exactly now. And the half length is 15, so I'm just marking it out so that I can get the circumference of my half length, which is my waist length too. So the circumference I'll be using is 28. So I'll divide this 28 by 4, and you can see how I'm dividing it. Then I'll mark it. But remember, this particular dress is a very free dress, so I'm going to be adding about 5 inches, about 4 or 5 inches for the freeness of this dress. So it depends on you. If you don't want it excess free, you can just make it add like 2 or 3 inches or 4 inches, or you can just do exactly what I did. So then for the down part of this dress, I just came down again. I just measure what I have for that half length, and I added an extra 3 inches because the down part has elastic, has that rope, remember, that we are going to fix there. So I just connect it together. So I'm going to be connecting that part now to this my round sleeve that I marked already. So I'll just bring it down slantly to join this half length part that I already marked out. So you can see how I'm just bringing it. Remember, it's sleeve, and since it's cut together, so I'm just bringing it like that, and I'm going to connect it exactly the way you're seeing. And if you do this now, it will come out very well, very okay. So this is me just tracing out what I have very well before I cut it out. So I'll proceed and cut out my fabric. So I'm going to be cutting out this part I marked, and after I'm done cutting it out, I'll just place my fabric now. I'll place it on a plain surface so that we can see exactly what I have now. Then I'm going to be marking out the neck, and for the neck parts, I use 3.5 by 3.5 for the neck. Remember, the fabric is folded in 4. So from the round sleeve downward, I'm going to be coming in down about 1 inch. Then I'll slant it towards the shoulder area, exactly the way you're seeing me doing. Then I'll cut out and cut the neck also. At this point, I'm going to be opening my fabric just to get the slant neck cut out. So you can see, so if you have your fabric like this, you can choose any part you want to be at the front and at the back, since we have the same thing for both front and the back. So this is the part I'm going to be using for the front. And I just, okay, so on the left side I just marked it 4 inches and I connected it to the center of the neck, exactly the way you're seeing. And I'm going to be cutting this out. So this side I'm cutting out now is going to be on the left side when I put on the dress, after I'm done making the dress. So stitching this dress is very simple, exactly the way you're seeing. I'm going to placing it on my sewing machine and stitch it side by side. Now let's proceed to the pants part. So this is the short pants, and this is me just marking out the starting point where I'm going to start the pants from. And I already folded my fabric in 2. So my fabric being folded in 2, and this is me just marking out where I'm going to start from. And I ensure the one I'm folding already is enough for my pants. So I'll begin my marking from this same mark I have already on my fabric. So this is me just marking 2 inches from the starting point I marked already, and I will slant these 2 inches downward with my ruler, exactly the way you're seeing me doing it now. So after I'm done doing this same point, this is where I'm going to be taking my waist measurement. And guys, this pant has a band which I'm going to be minusing 2 inches for the band out of the length of, and on this same line I'm going to be marking out my waistline. And waistline circumference, I divided it by 4 and I added 3 inches allowance. So you can see me label it W. So I will take it down and I'll mark out 8 inches for my hip line. Remember, there's going to be band, so I mark out 8 inches for my hip line, and I just drew the line downward exactly the way you are seeing, and I extend this my hip line to the other side to form this L shape. Then I will go downward with 2 inches for my couch measurements. So the first line is the hip line, and this second one, the 2 inches I went down with, is my couch measurement. So I will extend that vertical line to my couch line. So you can see exactly what I have now. So I'm going to be dividing the measurements, the circumference of my hip by 4. And now I'm going to be dividing it and adding much allowance. Remember, on the waist I added 3 inches allowance. On my hip I'm also going to be adding about 3 inches allowance. 3 inches I added on my waist is because the dress has a gathers, the pant has gathers on the waist side and is a free pant. So on my couch I also divide my towel by 4 and I added 3 inches allowance also. And I'm going to be connecting it just exactly the way you are seeing. I'm not going to be connecting it like this from the hip, but I'll connect it down to the couch line exactly the way you're seeing it now. And if you have your cuff ruler, just place it there and cuff it out. Then for the down parts, I'm just going to using my hip measurement also to mark exactly what I did for the hip is what I'm going to be marking out for the down parts, because it's very free downward. The pants is very free down. It will everywhere, like both the waist, the hip, the down of the pants we are making is very free. So that's why I'm adding 3 inches allowance. Then remember, the back is going to be bigger. Then for the length, I'm going to be using 14 inches. So I'll proceed now by removing about 1 inch from my waistline. Though the band I'm going to be adding on the waist is 2 inches. And this is the fabric I'm going to be using to do the band. Okay, let's proceed to the back side of the pants, and I've folded my fabric again in two, and I've placed the front part of the pants. I've placed it exactly on my fabric. So from this center back or front, exactly where you're seeing now, I'll go 1.5 to the side and 1.5 above. Then I'm going to slant it to meet up with where I place the front parts, just exactly you're seeing. Then I'll go down again by about 2 inches. As I'm going down, taking it down 2.5. Then when I reach the parts where I marked this couch, I'm going to go to the side by 3 inches. Then downward I'll go 2.5, just exactly the way you're seeing me doing it now. Then when I go down a bit too, I'll go 2 inches till I reach the down part of the short. So on the other side of my pants, I'm just going to be tracing out the way I place the front part, and I'll proceed to cut my shorts. So this is me just marking out about 7 inches where I'm going to be placing my pockets. So guys, I can see for the waist part, because I cut excess, so I'm going to be having small pleating on the waistband. So this is the part I'm going to be using for the waistband. So I've folded this like this in two. Remember, I just need 2 inches, but I'm going to be marking out 2.5. So I'll mark it out 2.5, and I will ensure the length I'm making use is exact length that I need, which is 28. Then I'll proceed to sew through my dress, and that is the shoulder part. So I'm just going to stitch it straight. I'll also stitch the other parts of the shoulder, but I'm not going to stitch it through. I will leave the opening, the one close to the neck, open small part. Then I'll just stitch it straight on the body part. You can see I'm stitching it up with about 0.5 inches, and this is what I have after I'm done stitching. This is the shoulder part, and this is the body part. You can see. So for the neck, you can see it's still open. I'm going to be using these bias to stitch the neck part. And for the down part, I'm going to be double folding it in and stitch it through, but I'm not going to stitch all through. I will leave small opening where I'm going to pass in my rope. If you look through the dress very well, you're going to see that they use rope for it. So you can see I'm double folding my fabric. That is the down part of my blouse, and I'm going to do the same thing like this and stitch it down. And for the sleeve, I did the same thing too, but for the sleeve I'm going to be passing elastic band, but the down part is rope. Okay, so at this point I'm going to be showing us how to use your bias to cover up the neck parts of your fabric. And so this is my bias. If you are used to bias very well, you will know there's a point, there's a part that is closed, and there's part that is open. So the part that is closed now, you are going to open it exactly the way you are seeing me doing it now, and place it on the right side of your fabric and stitch it straight. So I'm going to be stitching this thing straight, and try to open up the bias. And after I'm done, remember I said the one neck part of the neck was open, so this is where I'm ending the bias. So when I'm done stitching it straight, I'm going to flip it to the wrong side and stitch it straight too. So I'll just stitch it now and stitch it like all through, then close up the neck part. And for the rope, I'm going to be using this. So I just went ahead to cut this fabric out. It's even less than 1 inch. So after I stitch it finish, I will turn it inside out, and I'll give it a very good pressing. And this is the other part that is open where I turned it out from. So after now, I'll give it a good pressing
and my rope is ready. Then for the sleeve, I've gone ahead to pass in my elastic band through the sleeve, you can see, and this is the rope which I'm going to be passing through the down part of the blouse. Remember when I was stitching the blouse down parts, I said I'm going to be leaving small parts of the blouse open where I can pass my elastic through. So we'll proceed now to the stitching of the pants, and you can see I just placed the pants on my stitching machine exactly, and I'm going to be stitching that part curve the same way I cut it out, with about 0.5 allowance. And I did the same thing for the back part also. Then I'll proceed by marking out or notching my pocket. Remember when I was cutting, I marked 7 inches for the pocket, so I just went ahead to notch it. And this is the extra fabric I'll be using for the pocket. So the length, I made it 10, and for the wideness, I made it 7.5. Remember, it's unfolded, so 7.5 times 2. Then I'm going to be placing that extra fabric on my shorts material. You can see that side I notch, so I'm going to be just stitching it straight, and note that the wrong side is facing the wrong side. After I'm done stitching it straight, and I just trim out the excess that I have, and I make the notch part, that's 7 inches, to be bold, not too bold. So now about 1.5, I just flip it to the wrong side, I just bend it exactly the way you're seeing now, and I'll go ahead and stitch it. So at this point you can give it a very nice pressing. So after I'm done doing that, I just trimmed off all the thread and the excess I have. Remember, I didn't just flip my fabric, I have the extra piece for the pocket, so I'm going to be turning it to this side to cover up for the 1.5 I stitch inside. So but before I do that, I'm going to be stitching down this 1.5 that I bent in, so that it's not going to be coming out on the pocket area. So I've stitched it down. You can just give it a nice press now. So at this point, I'm now going to flip the extra material I have inside to cover up for this 1.5 allowance that I already stitched. So this is me just aligning my fabric to ensure everything is equal, and I'm going to be stitching this part, and that is the waist area, so I'll stitch it all through like this. Please don't forget to like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you have any question, don't hesitate to drop it in the box below. Thank you. So after I'm done stitching it, I'll just trim off the excess, and I will align my material very well. Remember the parts that I notched, that's 7 inches, so I'm going to be aligning it with the extra fabric that is inside, which I use for the pocket, and I'm going to stitch that part upward, just stopping at the part I notched. And I'll also cut out the excess thread, so you can see exactly what I have for the pocket, and this is the wrong side of the pocket. So you can choose to just stitch this place all through like this, or you turn it from the inside out, inside out from the pocket mouth, so that when you stitch you will not see the wrong side, you will see the part that is clean. So the wrong side is going to be inside the pocket, and that's why I had to put my hand from the pocket and turn it inside out and stitch it. So by the time I place it well now, I'm going to be seeing the stitching parts close, stitch on the wrong side. And this is me just aligning my fabric very well, and you can see exactly what I was saying. the down parts. So that is that, because I'm just going to be using one part for pocket and the other part for zipper. So remember, I've joined the center of the front and the back separate. Then I'll proceed now by joining the side, and I just place the center of my shorts where I've joined together with the second part of the front on the back part. Now I've placed it on each other, and I'm just stitching it round straight, and this is exactly what I have now. You can see. So at this point, I've not yet put my zipper, and the down part is still wide open. So exactly the way I place it now, I'll take it to the sewing machine, just ensuring that I turn it to the wrong side, and I'll stitch it straight. So this is the waistband, and I've gone ahead to cut out a paper stain that I'll be using inside it, and I cut it out 2 inches. Then you can see I've gone ahead to also glue it on my fabric. So I'm going to just close it up exactly the way you're seeing now. So after I'm done stitching it close, I'm going to be trimming off the excess, and this is what I have, and I also press it with my pressing iron. Remember the waist, so I'm going to be taking the exact measurement of the waist from this elastic band, from this waistband. So this is me just marking out the exact waist measurements. Now you are not dividing it by anything, just get the exact waist measurement. So if I marked it out, that will determine where I'm going to be stitching my down parts on. So now I've gone ahead to also stitch the down parts. You know, I put excess allowance on the waist, so that's why I'm having all this small pleating. So I've gone ahead to stitch the down part, and this is the other part. Remember, I just one part that has pockets. This is the other part that has the zipper, and this is what I have after I'm done. You can see those small pleating that I have. I have them also at the back side. So after I'm done with the sewing, I gave it a very beautiful pressing. And guys, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Shalom.